Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tavern of Tales. Today is going to be a tad different. I will be sharing 3 different small stories. Anyway, let me know what you think. Now, let's get on with it.
Man in the Warehouse, a fictional horror story. Emma had worked overnight security at an old warehouse for almost a year. She was a light-skinned woman in her late 20s who was known for staying calm under pressure. Every night she waited until the last employee clocked out, locked the entrances, and began her patrol through the massive, silent building. Once the lights were turned off, the warehouse felt completely different. The aisles stretched endlessly into darkness. Empty shelves cast long shadows across the concrete floor. Every footstep echoed through the building. At first, Emma dismissed the strange noises. Bang, scrape, tap. She assumed it was the building settling, or mice hiding in the walls. Still, the sounds always seemed to come from the same corner of the warehouse. One rainy night, everything changed. Emma was sitting in the security camera room reviewing the monitors when she noticed a strange glow in front of her. It looked like someone had briefly shined a flashlight through the hallway. She immediately looked up from her desk. Nothing. The hallway outside the camera room was empty. Confused, she looked back at the surveillance monitors. Her stomach dropped. One of the cameras showed a tall, pale man slowly walking through the warehouse in complete darkness. His movements were unnatural. His head was tilted to one side. He wasn't carrying a flashlight. He simply wandered through the aisles as if he knew every inch of the building. Emma grabbed her flashlight and radio and carefully searched the warehouse. Every aisle, every loading dock, every emergency exit. Nothing. No one. Feeling uneasy, she returned to the camera room. As she stared at the monitors again, she froze. The reflection on the black security monitor showed someone standing directly behind her. A tall man, sunken eyes, a twisted smile stretched across his face. Emma's heart nearly stopped. She spun around. The man lunged toward her with both hands, trying to grab her. She screamed. Without looking back, she sprinted through the warehouse, burst out the front doors, and frantically dialed 911. Within minutes, several police officers arrived. Emma, still shaking, pointed toward the building. "He's inside." The officers entered with flashlights drawn and searched every room. Nothing. No man. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. Just as they were about to leave, one officer heard a faint scratching noise coming from a wall near the back of the warehouse. The drywall had a rough hole near the floor. The officer knelt down to inspect it. Then he slowly raised his flashlight. Above the damaged wall was an open ventilation duct. The vent cover had been removed. The officer shined his flashlight into the duct. It looked empty. Then, scratch. Something moved farther inside. Emma quietly said, "That vent leads to the attic." 2 officers climbed into the attic access. The space was pitch black. Dust floated through the flashlight beams. For several seconds, silence. Then one flashlight landed on a figure standing perfectly still in the darkness. The same man. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He simply stared. Suddenly his face twisted with rage. He charged the officers. The narrow attic exploded into chaos. The officers wrestled him to the wooden floor as he screamed and fought with incredible strength. After a tense struggle, they managed to handcuff him. Covered in dust and breathing heavily, the officers dragged him down from the attic and escorted him outside. As they placed him into the back of the patrol car, the man slowly turned his head. He locked eyes with Emma. His expression wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was pure hatred. Even as the patrol car drove away, he never stopped staring at her. The investigation later revealed the man had secretly been living inside the warehouse attic for weeks. He had crawled through the ventilation system at night, making the noises Emma had been hearing all along. The hole in the wall had been his hidden entrance into the vents. The warehouse eventually repaired the damage and increased security. Emma finished out her final week before transferring to another site. Years later, she still worked security. But every once in a while, she wakes up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. Because in her dreams, she's sitting alone in the camera room again. She looks at the security monitor and sees his reflection standing silently behind her. Locker at the end of the hall. A fictional horror story. Rain had become part of football season at Ridgewood High. Every afternoon, 5 football players stayed after practice long after everyone else had gone home. Their unofficial leader was Jordan, the team's star running back. Along with Malik, Andre, Deshaun, and Tyrese, they gathered in the locker room every evening to relax, joke around, and tell scary urban legends. It had become their tradition. One rainy Wednesday, the rain hammered against the roof of the athletic building, while thunder rolled overhead. The boys sat on the wooden benches, surrounded by rows of blue lockers. "And that's why," Malik whispered dramatically, "you never answer someone calling your name from outside after midnight." Tyrese laughed. "Man, you really believe that?" Before Malik could answer, Coach Davis's voice echoed through the locker room. "All right, boys, lock up. Custodians need to clean." The boys groaned. "Come on, Coach," Jordan called with a smile. 5 more minutes." "Nope. Outside." Laughing, they grabbed their bags and headed beneath the covered patio outside while rain poured beyond the roof. For nearly 2 more hours, they traded ghost stories. Stories about haunted bridges, shadow people, phantom hitchhikers, the old abandoned hospital outside town. Eventually, they all headed home through the rain. The next afternoon, practice was exhausting. Wind sprints, blocking drills, film review. Afterward, the 5 friends naturally wandered back into the locker room. Jordan tossed his helmet into his locker. "So who has today's story?" Andre grinned. "I got one that'll make y'all sleep with the lights on." Everyone laughed. Then, Coach Davis shouted, "Wrap it up, boys." Jordan looked toward the coach's office. "We'll be right out." No answer. A strange feeling settled over him. "Coach?" He peeked around the office doorway. Empty. He frowned. "You guys see where Coach went?" Everyone looked around. "No. He was literally right there. I didn't hear him leave." Tyrese walked outside. A few moments later, he hurried back inside. "Coach's truck's gone." "What?" "The parking lot's empty." Everyone stepped outside. Sure enough, Coach Davis's pickup was gone. Only the security guard's patrol cart sat beneath a light. The overnight janitor pushed his mop bucket across another building. They were alone. Back inside, Deshaun laughed nervously. "Maybe a ghost told us to leave." Everyone burst out laughing. Jordan laughed too, but something about it didn't feel right. The boys walked home together through steady rain. They lived only a few streets apart. Conversation shifted from ghosts to Friday night's football game. Jordan finally split off toward his house. As he climbed into bed later that night, one thought refused to leave him. If Coach wasn't there, whose voice did we hear? Friday finally arrived. The stadium lights reflected off wet turf. The stands were packed despite the rain. Jordan had the game of his life. 3 rushing touchdowns, over 200 yards. Ridgewood won by nearly 4 touchdowns. Everyone celebrated inside the locker room afterward. Helmets hit benches, music blasted, players laughed. Eventually, most of the team headed home. As always, Jordan and his 4 friends stayed behind. The stories began again. Halfway through Andre's newest urban legend, bang! Everyone froze. The sound came from one of the lockers. Silence. Tyrese looked around. "You hear that?" Before anyone answered, bang! Even louder. Several lockers rattled. Malik slowly stood. Nope. I'm leaving. Everyone laughed. You scared? I ain't scared. Another violent bang interrupted him. This time every locker seemed to vibrate. The room fell completely silent. Jordan swallowed. What was that? Nobody answered. Jordan hurried outside and found Security Officer Grant making his nightly patrol. You hear those banging sounds? The older guard chuckled. You boys been telling ghost stories again? Everyone nodded. Grant smirked. Careful. They say this locker room's haunted. The smiles disappeared. What? There was a student years ago. He collapsed during practice. Never made it. They say strange things happen around his locker. Nobody laughed anymore. Grant pointed toward the building. Last locker. Back corner. The boys slowly returned inside. Silence. Jordan looked toward the last row. Then, bang! The very locker Grant pointed at shook violently. Nobody moved. The banging became faster, harder, louder. Jordan slowly walked toward it. Every step echoed. The locker rattled. Its door shook violently. Jordan reached for the handle. Everyone held their breath. He grabbed it. Pulled. The locker exploded open. Everyone screamed. A terrified cat launched from inside. It shot across the room and disappeared through an open side door. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then everyone burst into laughter. Tyrese dropped to one knee. I almost died over a cat. The tension vanished. They laughed all the way to the parking lot. Over the next week, nobody really wanted to tell ghost stories anymore. The atmosphere felt different. Practice ended. Players left quickly. The locker room emptied earlier than usual. One evening, Jordan stayed behind to grab forgotten gloves. He zipped his backpack, closed his locker. Click. As he turned, something caught his eye. At the far end of the room, the locker security officer Grant had pointed out stood open. Jordan frowned. I thought. He stared harder. A shadow stood beside it, perfectly still. It wasn't moving. It wasn't shaped like another locker. It looked like someone standing there, watching. Jordan blinked. The shadow never moved. He leaned slightly for a better look. Nothing. Just darkness. Yet, it still felt like someone was there, watching him. Jordan's heart began pounding. He didn't investigate. He didn't call out. He grabbed his backpack, turned, and sprinted out of the locker room. Outside, he caught up with his friends. Dang, Malik laughed. You run a marathon in there? Jordan forced a smile. I'm good. He never told them what he saw. That night, rain tapped softly against his bedroom window. Jordan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed everything. The mysterious voice, Coach denying he had been there, the locker banging, the cat, the shadow. Finally, one thought settled into his mind. Maybe the security guard hadn't been joking. Maybe someone, or something, still stood beside that locker, watching, waiting. Jordan decided he would never stay in that locker room alone again, because whether it had been a ghost or simply a trick of the shadows, he couldn't shake one terrifying feeling. Whatever had been standing beside that locker had been looking directly at him, and somehow he knew it had watched him leave. Haunted ski cabin, fictional horror story. Fresh snow blanketed the mountains as four close friends, Candace, Tristan, Veronica, and Jaden, laughed all the way up the winding road toward the ski resort. They had planned this vacation for months and couldn't wait to spend a weekend skiing, relaxing, and escaping everyday life. As they arrived, they checked into a cozy wooden cabin tucked deep among the snow-covered pine trees. Smoke drifted from nearby chimneys, and the entire area looked like something from a holiday postcard. "This place is perfect," Jaden said as he unlocked the front door. Everyone carried their bags inside and tossed them near the fireplace. "I call the room upstairs," Veronica laughed. The friends spent a few minutes unpacking, joking with one another, and planning which ski trails they wanted to tackle first. Soon they grabbed their gear and headed toward the ski lifts. When they reached the lift entrance, the employee stopped them. "Can I see everyone's ID?" The four friends froze. "Our IDs?" Candace sighed. "They're still in one of the bags at the cabin." "I'll run back," Candace volunteered. "You guys stay here." She hurried through the falling snow back toward the cabin. After unlocking the front door, she stepped inside and immediately stopped. The fireplace. It was burning. Bright orange flames crackled across the logs. Candace stared in confusion. "I don't remember anyone lighting that." She slowly looked around the room. No one. The cabin was completely silent. Trying not to think about it, she grabbed everyone's IDs from a backpack, glanced one last time at the burning fire, then hurried back outside. Back at the ski lift, she handed everyone their IDs. "Oh, by the way," she looked at her friends. "Which one of you lit the fireplace?" The group looked at each other. Jaden frowned. "I thought you did." Tristan shook his head. "I never touched it." Veronica slowly answered, "Neither did I." The four exchanged uneasy looks. "Maybe the staff lit it before we got there," Jaden guessed. "Probably." None of them completely believed it. Still, they shrugged it off. The ski lift carried them high above the mountain. For the next 4 hours, they raced down snowy hills, challenged each other to tricks, laughed whenever someone wiped out, and took dozens of pictures. As evening arrived, they stopped at a mountain restaurant overlooking the slopes. The warm food and hot chocolate chased away the freezing air. "This has been one of the best trips ever," Tristan smiled. Everyone agreed. As darkness settled across the mountains, they headed back toward the cabin. When they walked inside, the fireplace was completely cold. No ashes glowed. No smoke rose. Nothing. Candace stared. It was definitely burning earlier. Everyone looked at the empty fireplace. Jaden finally shrugged. "Well, it isn't now." He knelt down, stacked fresh logs inside, struck a match, and soon warm flames danced across the wood. The friends relaxed around the fire, watched movies, laughed about their skiing competition, and eventually grew sleepy. One by one, they headed to bed. Sometime after midnight, Veronica quietly walked into the bathroom. She splashed cold water onto her face. She leaned toward the mirror, then froze. Standing directly behind her was a pale woman. Long black hair, white frozen skin, dark hollow eyes. Her clothes looked soaked with snow. Veronica gasped and spun around. No one. The bathroom was empty. Heart racing, she sprinted into Tristan's room. "Tristan, wake up!" He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "What?" "I saw someone." He searched every room in the cabin. Closets, kitchen, outside. Nothing. "You probably dreamed it," he said. "Try to get some sleep." Veronica reluctantly returned to bed, but she didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, everyone gathered for breakfast. Veronica quietly asked Candace, "Besides the fireplace, did you notice anything weird yesterday?" Candace shook her head. "No." The conversation ended there. Soon the four friends returned to the ski resort for another exciting day. That afternoon, they entered a friendly skiing contest. Everyone was having fun. until Veronica hit a patch of ice. She lost control. Her skis crossed. She crashed hard into the snow. Ow! She clutched her leg. I think I twisted it. We need a first aid kit, Candace said. I'll run back. Snow had begun falling harder as Candace reached the cabin. She unlocked the door. Immediately, she froze. The fireplace was burning again. But this time, someone was sitting in front of it. A pale woman. She slowly turned her head toward Candace. Ice crystals covered her hair. Her lips were blue. In a soft, broken voice, she whispered, "It's so cold." She stared directly into Candace's eyes. "I can't get warm." Candace screamed and bolted from the cabin without looking back. She reached her friends breathless. "There's someone in the cabin." The four rushed back together. They burst through the front door. No woman, no footsteps, nothing. Veronica slowly spoke. "I told you I saw someone." Now everyone believed her. None of them said it aloud, but they all wondered the same thing. Was the cabin haunted? That night, silence filled the cabin until crack. The fireplace suddenly roared to life. Everyone woke up at once. They rushed into the living room. Standing beside the fire was the pale woman. She slowly stood. Her joints cracked unnaturally. Her icy eyes locked onto them. "It's so cold," she whispered. "I can't get warm." Then, she charged toward them. Everyone screamed. They ran out the front door into the freezing night. They sprinted straight to the resort's customer service office. "You have to move us," Jaden shouted. "The cabin is haunted." The employee stared quietly. "You saw her? You know about this?" Tristan asked. The man slowly nodded. "I've heard this story before." Without another question, he handed them a key. "You can stay in another cabin tonight." The four carefully returned to gather their belongings. The cabin was quiet. No ghost. No fire. They packed everything as fast as possible. Tristan grabbed the last suitcase. "Let's go." Jaden pulled the front door. It wouldn't move. Locked. They pulled harder. Nothing. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The room became freezing. The pale woman appeared once more. "It's so cold," she whispered. "I can't get warm." The temperature dropped instantly. Ice spread across the windows. Jaden and Tristan grabbed the doorknob together. "Pull!" They yanked with everything they had. Crack! The frozen door finally burst open. Candace and Veronica ran outside first. Jaden and Tristan followed seconds later. None of them looked back. Instead of heading to their new cabin, they returned straight to customer service. "The cabin really is haunted," Candace said. The employee slowly sighed. "It sounds like the woman who died there." Everyone stared. He continued. "Years ago, she fell from the ski lift during a blizzard. The storm buried her beneath the snow. Search teams never found her body. They believe her remains are still somewhere near that mountain." The room fell silent. "We'll close that cabin immediately," the employee promised. "No one else will stay there until her remains are finally found." The four friends packed their car before sunrise. As they drove away from the snow-covered resort, none of them spoke. Several weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal. But one question never left their minds. Were her remains ever discovered? Or was the pale woman still wandering the mountain, searching for warmth and waiting for the next guest to enter the haunted cabin?
I hope you enjoyed that. I know I did. Well, if you're interested in more stories, then you know where to find me. I'll be here drinking and talking with my comrades as always. Until next time, friend.